take you through the deployment scenarios, how we can and what are the different scenarios we have for the installation of test suite. Then we will go ahead with the architecture. Then we will show you the PaaS deployment in Azure. Then we will show you the how it can be installed through MSI in IaaS. Then we will, after that, after installation will complete, then we are going through the usage part of it, where we have one use case. On that, we will create the test data, and then we will integrate with the test manager and the orchestrator. And finally, we will take it the question answer from the Slido. So this would be the overall agenda for today's session. Let's start with the first one. Deployment scenarios, test suite deployment scenarios. So we have a three broadly different test suite scenarios. So first one would be the UiPath Cloud, where you don't require any infrastructure initially to go with it. So you can just need a license. So once you can activate your test manager license, it would be readily available in UiPath, cloud.uipath.com. You can start using it. You can map your studio with it, and you can instantly start using the test suite from the UiPath Cloud. Second scenario would be test automation suite. You can install the test suite with the automation suite that could be on-prem or private cloud. And the last would be also on-prem, that would be virtual machine and on the private cloud. So that would be the individual standalone installation. We will show you the PaaS also on the Azure and on the IaaS. Once it has been installed, it can be linked with your existing orchestrator so that it would be having a single identity to log in into the test manager as well. So these are the three typical scenarios to install the test suite. So we will go through the demo part on the individual product on premises and PaaS Azure Marketplace. Any doubt, any question, anyone have? Okay, so let's proceed further. This would be the typical architecture of PaaS deployment. So as you know, test manager. So first, let's understand why we need to have this session on the test manager. What the outcome we will get it from the test manager. As you know, testing would be the integral part of any software development. Either it would be RPA or any software development. Testing would be the integral part of it. So in test manager, we have one component, test manager, on which you can automate the testing part of RPA. You can create your own test cases through Studio. You can publish it into the test manager and orchestrator, where you can schedule it like you are scheduling the jobs or processes. You can schedule it, you can trigger it and all that one. And moreover, test manager can link it with your ALM, application lifecycle management tools like DevOps, Jenkins, and all that one. So it automatically takes the requirement. We have an integration part of it. We will show into the demo at the last how you can integrate it with the Azure and all. So the requirement part or the planning part would automatically get synced with your test manager app. So test manager app would require the identity. To register itself for the login part of it. It required NuGet packages to store the packages, NuGet packages, what we are publishing it to the test manager. It required App Insight and Azure Key Vault as well. So this is the overall architecture in which Studio is linked with the test manager. Studio, so test suite having four main components. One is test manager, one is Studio, one is orchestrator, and finally is a test robo. So test robo is to run the automation, whatever the use cases or whatever the test cases we are creating using the Studio, whereas orchestrator is to orchestrator and test manager is to manage the test cases. So let's.
Sorry to interrupt. So do we require a separate identity server for this, or the orchestrator one would work?
So no, identity server would be the same orchestrator server. So we will show you in the demo part of it. You need a token from the identity server. It will take the same token from the identity server while configuring the test manager web app. It will take the token from the existing orchestrator identity server, and it will link to it. You don't require separate identity web app for the test manager to be hosted on the Azure.
I think for test environment, we only need a test studio alone, right? Not the test orchestrator, right? We
No,
just
test
integrate and
yes, exactly. So test orchestrator, we don't require it. It will automatically get synced with the existing orchestrator.
right. Mostly there will be new additional catalogs that would be added. We need to use
Yes.
them.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Got it. Thank you.
Any other question on this? So this would be the typical, deployment architect for the test manager on the web app. So let's go to the demo part of it. I'm sharing my screen. Give me a minute.
In between, is it a license, the test manager?
Yes, it required license. Are you able to see the portal, Azure portal? Please confirm anyone.
Jagdeep,
No,
it's
we,
still the
we see
presentation.
your PPT.
Are you able to see it now?
Yes,
Yeah.
we are able to see your Azure portal.
Exactly. So here, so this is the first demo part of it, how we can configure test manager on through Azure Marketplace. So test manager is available on Azure Marketplace. You just need to click on it. So it is asking you to select it. So first, basic information, it will ask the subscription and the resource ID. Already I have that. Let me take that one only. Once we provided the basic detail about the project, subscription ID, resource group, and the region, it will now ask for the resource. So we have a version 42.4.2 latest one. So this here you can give your test manager base app name. Let's second demo. Yeah. So again, you have a two options. One, if you want to configure your own resources, you need to select it and you need to provide it. Otherwise, you do have an option to select it. No, it automatically creates the database, existing database it will take and create it. Let's create it, all the things over here.
So is that comes with a subscription in the Azure, or you need to take a separate license for the UiPath test manager?
No. So licensing would be on the test robo part of it.
Okay.
Jagdeep, I think you cannot keep capital characters.
We can,
Remove one.
So this underscore is also not allowed.
it will allow. The name is
Yeah, one.
Okay. Now we can able to get it. Okay, so finally it takes the name. So these are the things what it required: SQL Server, storage account name, test manager keyword name, database name, app service plan, and insights. Once you click on next, it will ask you to create the admin login. Admin login is a username. This would be the password. And from here, you can select the database size based on your requirement. Is it small, medium, or large? Let me select the small one as of now. Then it will ask you the storage type. I'm just selecting the standard LRS storage, redundant storage, local redundant storage. So now here the part starts where it asks you the orchestrator URL, identity URL, and identity test token. So let's log into the URL part of it. So this is my and this is the token from the identity URL. So once you log in,
Where did you get this token from? From
okay,
host?
sorry.
So you need to log in into the host tenant of the orchestrator. Once you log in into the host tenant of the.
Yes. So once you log in into the host tenant, you will have a authentication setting. You can copy this from here.
Okay.
So once you log in into the host tenant, you will get two options, either to go with the management or the identity hub like this. Just go to the management part of it, authentication setting. From here, you can copy this one.
Okay.
Let's continue, Jagdeep.
Yeah, I'm continuing. Are you able to see my Azure screen? So here, these
Yes.
all things are from existing URL, identity, existing orchestrator. So one is existing orchestrator URL. We have provided identity URL and the token from the identity. Once all the things are done, you can give the tags. So these all are the things what we have provided while this wizard, SQL Manager resource. You can check it over here and you can just click on create.
So regarding the tags, it is linked with the user.
No. So this is tag. You can give it as per your company policies.
Okay.
So it is deploying. It will take around 15 to 20 minutes to deploy it. We will come back again to it. Meanwhile, let's start to another point of it. So let's go back to the slide. Meanwhile, it is deploying the package. Are you able to see the PPT?
Yes, Jagdeep, you are able to see.
Okay, great. So over to you, Pawan. Pawan will take it to us through the IIS installation. Over to you, Pawan.
Thank you, guys. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining in the session. Jagdeep, can you stop the sharing? I will share my screen. So as Jagdeep suggested, we can deploy test managers test manager in two types of environment, like in PaaS and in IaaS server machines as well. Right now, I will be going through the architecture on the IaaS server machines. Okay, so this IaaS server manager is hosted on, like, test manager is hosted on IaaS servers as we host orchestrator on premise environment, right? We need IaaS hosting bundle to host this test manager application. Now, this test manager application works like it's kind of very similar to the orchestrator in terms of the deployment and the process that has been followed. Like, it needs an SQL server, it needs a connectivity to a database and the current server. The test manager can be also deployed on the same orchestrator machine or on a different server machine. We would recommend a different server machine apart from the orchestrator, because that will remove any of the choke points of the failure that may pitch in across, and will add to resiliency and redundancy as well. Now, once you deploy the test manager on a server on premise hosted on .NET IaaS server, we will have to, like, it will log in into the orchestrator event logs. It will create a new source out there as in test manager, and all the logging of this test manager will be done onto the event period logs. Further, there will be a file storage wherein it is going to store the relevant data across that has been used by the test manager as an application. We can connect our studios and link our test cases directly to the test manager. If you see, we have a studio which directly links onto the test manager. Now, this test manager also interacts with the orchestrator. We do have a pooling service which runs within the test manager, which continuously, periodically keeps on calling the orchestrator server APIs. Now, these APIs, what they do is, orchestrator, whenever any test case is executed from the orchestrator environment, there are two databases to it, right? One is automation database that will come in when you enable the feature from the orchestrator. You need to run the installer MSI again. That will create that particular database, and test automation feature will be enabled, right? And test manager has its own individual database, which is known as a test manager database. By default, these names will be created, but you can go ahead and change them across as well. Now, the pooling service, how does it work? As soon as you, like, publish any of the test cases or test results to the orchestrator, right, it will push these to the test automation database, which was created by the orchestrator. Now, the pooling service, which is running on the test manager database, it is going to interact with the APIs, using APIs with the orchestrator, and get the data which was saved in the automation server, and that will sync up with the test manager database across. So all the information that you see in the test manager, it's a combination of pulling to and fro between the test manager automation database and the database that has been created by the orchestrator MSI, which is test automation database. Right. Studio can also be linked with different source controls. We have CSID pipeline running in the Azure. You can, so whenever we creating a test automation or test processes across, what we can do is we can directly use the source controls and CI/CD pipelines to publish those source codes to the orchestrator, which will reside again in the orchestrator and the test automation database. And test manager as an application is going to interact using the orchestrator APIs to this test automation database to pull the data and showcase you. We can also go ahead and create the test cases in test manager, which will again sync up with both the databases across. Now, test manager is generally used for testing the deployed processes across. We have built-in cases there, and this can also be connected with the online ALM tools that we are having, which are kind of Jira or other LM tools that are present within the organization. You can go ahead and raise the defects within the Jira. Test manager is going to interact with the Jira application, and then once it interacts with the Jira application, it will get the requirement and the stories from the Jira application or any other ALM tool that you're having on-prem or on cloud. It can go ahead and interact and get those data across. This is a web application, since this has been hosted on IaaS, and any of the users which are interacting or using the test automations that are being deployed across, they can go ahead and access this particular application via the URL that has been configured using any of the client browsers like Firefox, Chrome, or Edge.
So here I just have a doubt, just to
Go
make
ahead,
it more
Harish.
clarity. So we see two SQL servers, or you see SQL server which is connected to the test manager, and a SQL server which is holding the orchestrated data plus the test automation database.
See,
So
okay. So you can have a different SQL servers. You can have a single SQL server as well, which can host the multiple databases, right? It can host the orchestrated data as well. It can host the test automation data as well, and it can host the test manager data as well.
okay, so it is not two. It can be on the same SQL server with just a different database. One for our orchestrator, one additionally for test automation, right?
Exactly.
When you
Exactly. So
install, so
yes. So
probably a different diagram explaining what additionally comes along with the existing. When we are installing the test manager, in the sense, we are adding something to the existing infra. So we have an orchestrator studio and a database. So we are bringing up something additional or attaching something additional to it, right? So can you explain from that perspective what additionally that we are adding to the existing infra? Because in previous sessions or classes, we understood what is required for an orchestrator and sites, right?
okay. So orchestrator, you have deployed an orchestrator as an application. I'm going from just from the baseline. Now, once the orchestrator as an application has been deployed, you will find, if you go to the SQL servers, you will find UiPath orchestrator database, the schema. By default, that is the only schema that will be present. And within that particular database, you will be able to find the tables across for identity and webhooks, other relevant tables. But on a top level, on a higher level, you will find only a single database, which is UiPath orchestrator. Now, if you're going to add test manager to this, right? Test manager is going to create its own database. Second, once the test manager installation is complete, you need to enable the feature in the orchestrator as well. Now, that feature in the orchestrator can be enabled via using MSI, which is present, which has both the options, like installing the orchestrator and installing the test automation. So if the orchestrator is already installed, you run the MSI and select the option of test automation. It will run through the values that are needed, and it will go ahead and create a test automation database across, which will be interacting with the test manager for the service pooling and the data syncing. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. So additionally, yeah, that answers my question. Yes.
So additionally, there will be like additions, right? If you are like, if you're hosting a test manager on a different server, this is the addition of just the functions, right, to the orchestrator.
Definitely. So basically, we need a different web server, that is a different Windows server, and a different database alone. So in the same RDS or same database server, we are using a database, additional database, and a different Windows server is the additional cost that we are getting, where we will still use this IAS to integrate with the test manager.
Yep. So basically, right, this diagram also illustrates that, see, we have not segregated it on the basis of SQL servers. If you observe it carefully, we have just named the one SQL server. For orchestrator and test automation, we are assuming that it's the same server. So you see the dotted lines across, it resembles a SQL server, and there is no distinction for the SQL servers on the other.
Okay, got it. It's clear now. Yeah.
Okay. It can be a different as well, but depending upon the requirement that you're having. Now,
one question. Why we need two IAS? I think orchestrator also using with the one IAS, right? We installed in the earlier with the orchestrator. So again, we are going with the test manager. We need IAS.
So we are going to deploy test manager on a different database server, a different server machine altogether. So if like, say that orchestrator is deployed in a high availability module, right? And if you want to have test manager on a different server, then you need a different IAS. Though you can, like, as in per se, you can go ahead and deploy it on the same server, but it's not recommended. We recommend to use a different server machine to host different applications. It's easier, it's maintainable, and other benefits to it, right?
Yeah,
Got
Siddharth,
it.
that will answer your question. See, it is simple, right? You are adding additional functionality here. So why you want to disturb your original infrastructure?
I would not say it's a single
Yeah.
functionality.
I mean,
Why?
not
Why?
single
Because
functionality.
why? Because Test Manager in itself is a complete web application holding a lot of features.
Exactly. So,
So
we'll
since
not
it is a since it is a web application, we generally use IaaS deployments to deploy one applications on one single machine. It becomes maintainable and it provides resiliency as well. Yeah, that's right. Now, if say that your orchestrator is going down, right? And if you have a DR backup, say that it is an active passive mode, you can bring up the other DR server. But in such scenarios, again, you will have to have a test manager as well, right? So we just wanted to keep a segregation because of the maintainability and disaster recovery and all those systems. And does it answer? You can go ahead and this can be deployed across. It's not mandatory that you follow one particular design across. You can go ahead and deploy it on the same IaaS server as well. Does it answer your question, Sachin? Hello? Sachin?
Pawan, I think you should move forward.
Yeah.
Okay, I think, okay. So I will move ahead with the test manager installation. So I will go through the basic hardware requirements which are needed for the test manager. These have been presented online in our online documentation guides. If you go through it, you will find a lot of details here. If you have a web server and if you are having a test manager, right? So minimum course, say that if less than 200 users are being using, this is like 4 courses in minimum, it should be needing, and memory is of 8 GB. Hard disk is 0.5 GB. This is the medium size or the recommended size. If you're going for the large deployments, this can increase up to 8 cores, or you can have additional number of cores. This is a minimum or the recommended. So if the cores are higher, it will like the functions is gonna be very smooth and much faster. But again, this is not gonna hold back and you will not feel any of the lags in such cases if you're going with this configuration. So processor should be 8 cores, memory is 32 GB or more, and hard disk is 1 TB or more. This is for greater than 200 users. If it is a small deployment with less than 20 users, then you can go with 2 cores, 4 GB memory as well. The similar goes with the SQL Server as well, since it is going to create the database and there are the service pooling services which are running on the test manager, which constantly interacts with the database test automation as well. So there also you need the requirements are simple. It also needs 8 cores, 16 GB of RAM or more, and 1 TB of more. Now this could fill up the databases for the logging, or there could be load. You need, if you all have deployed the orchestrator and the test manager on the same SQL server, you need to take care of the spaces on the individual databases, like how it is being managed. The ports by default, as in test manager uses port 443, and SQL Server by default the port is 1443. These ports are definitely, you can go ahead and change this across according to the requirement, or these ports are being used by any other application, you can go ahead and configure it. So I will now directly move on to the hands-on installation for the test manager. Let me know if you guys are able to see my screen. So I will start off with the basic functions of what are the server rules that you need to be installed. These are quite similar to the rules that you have had in the previous session for the orchestrator installations. We do have an script for the rules installation. You can run this PowerShell script, and this is going to go ahead and install these rules and features particularly for you. Majority of these features are listed here. And these could be same. Once if you run the script, you can go ahead and validate from the IaaS server managers whether you are able to see these default roles installed on the server machine. This is exactly the same, similar to what we have in the orchestrator for the website deployment. Moving on to next, we need a certificate. You can go ahead. I have created for this deployment, I have created a self-signed certificate, which is, if you go to the application pools and on the server, you will find orchestrators. You will find this certificate that I have been using. It's self-signed certificate. You can go ahead with a domain certificate as well, which is much easier. The domain signed certificate, you don't need to import those certificates into the individual client machine for the trusted relationship, right? And in case if you are using the self-signed certificate, then you need to import that on the machines. But with domain signed certificate, that is not the scenario. Now I will go ahead with the MSI. So I have already downloaded the test manager MSI. This version is 22.4.1, which we will be showcasing to you. There are a lot of parameters to it. If you open up the command prompt, I will navigate to that particular location, which is in the C drive. And if I say UiPath test manager MSI hyphen help, you will be able to find the relevant parameters, right? Because there are multiple options according to which you can go ahead and install this test manager and run this MSI, right? Because then certain scenarios, the IT team runs it across. They might run it in a quiet mode or in a passive mode, which is completely unattended. Along with the parameters, they can supply it from the command line as well. So there is no user intervention. But for the sake of our understanding, I'm going to follow the UI mode of this. So I'm going to run this MSI without any parameters that I have been providing, but we can generate the logs. If you say L star VX, then log.txt. Now, what these parameters is going to do is it is going to create a log file within the directory where your MSI has been present. And you can give the complete path as well. If you want to customize the path, you can give the file path as in complete, like C drive or D drive, wherever you want to place it across. So I will go ahead and try to run this. It has started up. It has came up. So meanwhile, I will walk you through each of the steps that are needed for the installation. Let the parameters load up and we will be able to click on next once the MSI initializes up. At the moment, what it is trying to do is it's initializing its files and components which are like compressed within the exe files. I have already installed Orchestrator on my machine so that I would be able to showcase you how we can pick the installation token and how you can log in, what are the required details that are needed. And I will be also showcasing you the test automation installation as well using the Orchestrator MSI. Okay, so, I think we ran a wrong setup. So we need to run test manager. I will run it. We need to accept the license agreement when we are trying to install. If we don't check it across, it is not going to allow us. So first parameter is the installation path. So this is the default installation path where we recommend you to install the test manager. And this will be the host name of the machine that comes up by default. This is the port on which the test manager application is going to be running. So you need to ensure the port is available for us and for the application. In case if you are installing the test manager on the same server machine where Orchestrator has been installed, so Orchestrator also uses port 443. So you might need to change that across. But if it's a different server, ensure this port is not being used. right? So I will leave this as in by default and see like whether that throws an error or not. Because port 443 is being used by my orchestrator. If you see port 443 is used by another application, so I will go ahead and change that across to 8443. Now, application pool identity. Application pool identity is a particular user account where you go, where under which the application runs. Like if you go to the default application pools, these are the certain. So application pool is inbuilt account from IIS, which runs this particular application. If you don't want to use the inbuilt account, you can go ahead and select the user specific accounts as well. Generally, people do use service accounts because they don't have the expiry of the passwords there. And application pool identity also can be used. So I will, for the time being, I'm going to leave out with the application pool identity and click next. Now it is gonna ask me for the SQL Server host. I will fill in the details for my SQL Server host. My SQL Server host is residing on the same machine. I will give the details. The database name. This is the default database name that has been populated. I will keep that as a default only and provide my SQL user ID and the password. We can also use the Windows integrated authentication for SQL here. If you select the option as a Windows integrated authentication, it will take it up. Now, since as I told you, right, test manager is going to interact with the orchestrator very frequently. So there is a connection made between the orchestrator and the test manager while we are running the installation itself. So we will have to give our orchestrator URL, which is this. And as soon as you click, it will by default take the identity service URL. I think there was a question to Jagdeep some time back wherein you were asking like we need an identity server. So orchestrator itself contains the identity server and it is going to by default take the configurations accordingly. Now this will be our by default test manager URL. You can go ahead and edit it across, but if you're editing it across and if you're trying to set as in say that testmanager.uipath.com or testmanager.mycompanydomain.com, something of those sort, ensure that particular name resolves to a server machine. And there you have a DNS record and an AA entry added accordingly. Else what will happen is here you can go ahead and keep anything. Say that if you say that my testmanager.com, right? What is going to happen is when any of the client or the users try to access that UiPath.testmanager.com, what will happen is that is not going to resolve it and they are going to see the blank page. So it is going to fail. Ensure that resolves if you're changing it across. So next parameter is I need to provide the identity installation token. So for that, I will be logging into the host tenant. I will go to the identity hub and then the management section as Jagdeep as well explained. Then I'm going to the security settings. You will find the installation key. We would recommend to generate a new one. Please note that this installation key is valid for 2 hours only. So if in case you have already captured this and saved it somewhere and you want to like while installation, if you're performing the installation maybe beyond 2 hours later point of time, then the earlier installation token will be invalid and you need to fetch the token again and then do it across. So we would recommend, right, when you are installing it, then only pull up the token and use it across while the installation. This token is used to register applications to the identity. As I told, right, test manager is going to interact with the orchestrator, right, via APIs. Now, to authenticate whether this is right application interacting with the orchestrator, this installation is token needed. With this installation, the application gets registered across. If this is wrong or something else is wrong within the installation token or it is invalid, what will happen is users will not be able to log it and test manager will not be able to communicate to the orchestrator. It will not be able to communicate. It will fail the showcase the connection refused errors or not able to connect to the server machines. So I'm going to pull the
Yeah, so in that case, it's like this particular token is being used only for the installation, and later point of time, this is no longer be used, right? Because the application is already registered in the identity.
Exactly. If you are
Okay.
making changes to the installation, probably that time you need to provide the fresh token, because the earlier token gets expired and you will not be able to register that again.
But
Okay, thank you.
this token is already present, right? Like you can see, we can log into Orchestrator and get it. You are saying, right? Is that's the same token, right? The external
Yeah. So as
installation ID.
as I logged in into the host tenant as of now, right?
Correct.
And then
correct.
back to the identity management security settings, you will find the installation key here.
Installation key.
And
Okay.
if you observe, we have documented this as well. This token is to access APIs, enables register the other components.
Single sign,
So in
okay.
future, right, so that there are other applications that UiPath has been providing. Identity acts right now, identity acts as an communication medium for authentication and authorization. It's a single point of contact. Orchestrator also uses identity for authentication and authorization. Any other applications like which may be planned kind of gonna use the similar way.
Okay. Okay.
So I will pull in the installation token. Next, this is the last step where you can go ahead and verify the details across. And I will go ahead, since we have already validated it across. This is my host name, server machine. Ensure the port name for the test URL. In case this is not the default, you ensure that is correct. And you can go ahead and hit install. So we will, while we are continuing with this installation, I will minimize this across. I will minimize this across, and I will take you to the certificate, okay, that we have generated. I would like to talk more about it. So this is the certificate, right? And if you see, ensure your certificate contains SAN names and subject alternative names to the current server machine, and it does get results. So at times what is going to happen is these certificates will not have the SAN names. Generally, if it's a domain certificate, because these have been created by certain tools across, there needs to be an explicit request to add SAN names to it, subject alternative names. This helps identity to resolve it across and trust the result relationship between the orchestrator and the test manager that we have been using. So my installation is continuing. I think it's in the background. 1 second. Okay, where it went. Okay, this is the one. This is the window where it is installing. So as you see, now it is configuring the identity, which means, right, if you see the status, what it is trying to do is it's configuring the identity, which means the installation that we picked it up, it is going to configure into the database, and this is going to register itself as an application, valid application that will be accessing identity for the authentications purposes across. So once this is done, the installation will get completed. Okay. Talking about the databases, let me connect to my SQL Server. Okay. So right now, this is my orchestrator, right? And I have UiPath and UiPath Test Manager. We are installing. It has already created the database. I think that the process is in progress and it has already created the database across. Few more minutes and okay, the installation wizard setup has been completed. Now this is gonna fail, guys. Now why this is gonna fail? I will let you know. In the architecture diagram, if we remember, you see, this is an unauthorized error. In the architecture diagram, if we remember, we needed to have the connectivity and enable the feature from the orchestrator as well, which is test automation. That step we have not performed it. So as much as you want to try to log in, it will show you unauthorized and it will take you back to the identity where it is gonna log in back.
Which
Now-
step is that? I didn't-
Okay, I'm coming to it. I'm coming to it. So I just wanted to explain the exception that you might see, like once you go ahead and install test manager, you might land up to this page, which will mean you have not installed the test automation. Another cause of this particular error, logout or unauthorized, would be when there is no testing license available, testing robot available in the orchestrator. I do have available. If I go to host, okay, this session mine expired. So if I go to host, and I'm gonna go to orchestrator, host tenants. If I go to license, right? If you're not having testing runtimes across, you will be not able to log in when you like first time trying to connect to it. You need at least one. Then only you will be able to log in. Now I will go ahead and try to run the installer to enable the test automation. I need to launch the orchestrator MSI. While this is being done, ensure the versions and we do have the compatibility, the exact compatibility between the orchestrator and the test managers that is needed is documented in our online portal documentation. Ensure that we are using the right versions across for this. So if I right now the assist installation for that is complete, even if I try to log in, and since it is not a default port, ensure that we will have to provide the port number, else because this is on the same server machine, it is gonna go to the same port. So I will try to log in as an admin and then I will give my password. So you see unauthorized because we have not enabled the test automation. Let me cancel one of these. Next, I want to change it across. I don't want to remove the orchestrator. Please be aware. If you remove it, it will gonna uninstall it. I will change it across and you have the option to select the test automation. Select it as an entire feature will be installed on this current server machine. You need to provide again the SQL host name that you want to connect to because it is gonna create the test automation database to it. So I'm giving this and I'm going to use as in same way. I'm going to use the SQL authentication for me. So if you observe in the databases section right now, we are not having a test automation database. This is going to run the orchestrator API, make the necessary changes, create the schema, and configure the orchestrator as well.
Pawan, one question. Do we need a separate license for test manager or just the testing license would suffice?
Yeah, testing license would serve.
Okay.
Basically, you need to have the testing robots. Until unless you don't have it, you will not be able to connect the application across.
Sure.
So once this gets completed across, you will be able to log in and use test managers without any issues. You will be able to build your test cases. And now you see this is setting up the database. And if I go and click and refresh here, it's not, it's setting it up. We need to refresh back. Okay, now you see it created another database. So there was some time back, there was a question, right? It's the same server, but you can have it on a different server as well.
So one question actually.
So let me try to log in this and then we will get, if you allow me a minute. Okay, I think I need to reset IIS because of the configurations that has been done. Just give me a moment. Okay, you were having question, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, so initially we had only UiPath database, which is created by the orchestrator installer. But later, now I see two additional databases getting installed. One is understood by the test automation. And what is the third one?
So that's what. So we ran the test manager. It installed the test manager, created a test manager database. The second step was we created the test automation via running the orchestrator MSI, enabling the test automation feature.
So basically, we need two databases when we are additionally using test automation, right? One
Exactly.
Getting created by the service when you did the change and created the service for test orchestrator from the orchestrator server. That created one, and different one when you install the test suite, correct?
Yep.
Okay, that's a doubt.
Not test, yeah. So test manager and the test automation it is. Okay, I think I need to use incognito mode. So once this is done, you will be able to log in it across. And after this, Jagdeep is going to continue with the session, how the usability, and walk you through the portal. Jagdeep, can you continue, please? I think the installation has been complete and the database is being presented.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Pawan.
Okay.
Can you stop sharing? Let me share.
Yep. Okay, 1 second. I think I missed to show. Just give me a moment, Jagdeep.
You want me to stop sharing?
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
So I thought we were discussing about the issue, right? Can you guys able to see my screen? So previously, if you observe, it was not logging in. Now it does log in. And it was throwing the error. Now it's not the case. I'm able to log in without any issues. You can go ahead and create your projects across. So the issue for that particular, it's not the issue. The recommended way is like you need to install test manager, then the test automation. If you're not installing the test automation, you won't be able to get into the test manager web portal. Now you are able to get to. Thank you, Jagdeep. Go ahead. Please continue.
What is the use of these two different databases?
Okay, so certain you can run test cases from the orchestrator as well, right?
Right.
And whatever is being run, it is being pulled into the test manager, test automation database. And if you want to see the automations or the test automations that have been run and the test sets, then you will be able to see it from the test manager, which will extract the data from the test automation. So basically, it's a conjunction between the interaction between the three applications.
So,
Go ahead.
okay, so is it like the test automation database? Is it a, I would say, middleware between the UiPath and the test manager database? It basically holds up the data for some time.
Yeah, no, it's not sometime. The data is there present.
Data is there, and the test manager would be pulling the data from that database, not directly to the UiPath.
Test manager. So how does it work? It does not pull or does not query directly the database. It will use the orchestrator APIs, and orchestrator will in turn fetch it from the test automation database and provide the results back to the test manager. It doesn't query as in directly. It will use the APIs for the orchestrator.
Okay.
Sachin, shall we start?
So Pawan, Sneha here. I have one question. When we were including the test manager in the orchestrator, we gave a different database. So why didn't we give the same existing orchestrator database so that it gets changed along with the existing database and created a separate one?
We do have a segregation, right?
Okay,
Because both are intended for a different purposes.
okay. So there is no orchestrator tables again created into the test manager. There is no redundancy, correct?
It has majority the tables which are corresponding to the test automation process.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Does that answer your question, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pawan. So let's come to another part of this session, how we can use this test suite with Studio, how we can create the test cases, how we can publish that into the orchestrator, and how we can use it with the test manager. So this would be the agenda for usage. Let's go to one by one. So as you know, testing would be the integral part. So it would be the continuous development and testing plan. So we need to plan the testing. We need to design it. We need to implement it. We need to execute it. And then finally, we need to analyze it. We need to see the monitoring. So planning how we can create it or how we can do it. So test manager. So in test manager, we can create the manage the test projects and all that one. In design phase, we are tracking the execution of test cases. In implement phase, the studio we will using the studio to create the test cases. In execute phase, either we are choosing the orchestrator or we can run it through the test manager. And in test manager, we do have a option to monitor all the runs, whether it is pass, failed. It will give you all the views over there. So let's go one by one into this one. So there are two basic test cases we can create in the studio. One is basic test case, another is data-driven test case. So think about it when you are creating the one use case. So first and the foremost part of the testing is a unit testing, what developer is doing. How he is doing, he is hard coding some value, some argument and running the workflow. If it is running fine, then unit testing is he's saying that unit testing is done. So that is hard coding part of it where you are just hard coding it with the static value. It comes in the basic test cases. Now data driven test cases where you can have a n number of rows, n number of arguments and their output also to check whether that test has been passed or not. So these are the two test cases. So basic test cases does not have a data in any other format, JSON or Excel. But in data driven, we would have a number of other data which can be run on that particular use case. So so this is how actually test set and test cases runs. So what is test set? Test set can have a number of test cases. So one project can have a number of test set in which we can have a number of test cases written. So how developers are developing the use case is creating the different modules, different XAML files, different workflows, and invoking it through workflows. So he can create the different test cases in that one, different module, different workflow having a different test cases. He can make one the test set for all the test cases. Once test cases has been executed, it is executed without any result. It goes into the queue. And once the results, it runs all the test cases, it will show into the green and the red. Green mean the test has been passed and red mean it has been failed. So we will see in this thing into the studio and the orchestrator. So you will able to see my screen, correct? Can anyone please confirm?
Yes, Jagdeep.
Yes, we are
Okay,
able.
okay, thank you. So this is the basic one use case what I have written it. What this use case will do, it will go into one website, sha1.online, which extract the hash code, hash key for the UI path. So this is very simple one. It goes, so I will first explain you the use case, then we will create the test case on it. So first it will open the browser, it will goes into this URL. So just this is a message I have posted, this process started it. It select the value from this drop down. The selected value would passing into 3 encoding type. If you see, So encoding type would be so here I have hard coded it as MD5. So this use case will select the MD5 from this drop down. And after once it has been selected, it will write the UI path. This also I have hard coded it in this one. It will type the UI path. And once it type the UI path, it will click on enter. And after clicking the enter, it will this site will generate one hash code of it. And this hash code will saved into the extractor. And once this extractor has that value of this particular hash code, it will close the browser and it will give you the extractor as a output parameter in this. Let's run this use case. You will able to see it. It goes into the website. It selected the drop-down value as MD5. It's click on this result, hash result, and get the hash out of it. So now if we see into the output variable, this is the hash code, what it got from that website as the MD5 for UI path. Any doubt in this use case? It's very simple use case to give the demo and to explain how to create the test cases. And any questions so far? Okay, great. Now let's go to the project, this one. So you need to click on right click on that particular workflow, what you are creating. We can have a different workflow, different XAML file over here. Once you clicked on this right click on it, it will you have to select the create test cases. It will give you the wizard. You can select the name of that particular test cases, location and all. I'm not changing anything. So data source right now, we are not selecting anything. We will create the data source. Okay, so let's take the data source. I have not selected any data source of it. So I have selected this XAML file. It all automatically invoke this argument, import these argument into this test cases where I have written the UI path or MD5, we have hard coded it. So it's having three different sequences. One is given, one is when, and one is then. Given mean how to initialize. So if you see in this use case, what are the things we need to initialize? Initializing mean starting point, how we can start this use cases to open the browsers. Let's add browser activity. Use browser. Let me open that website. Let me indicate this. So this is initializing is done where we just open the URL out of it. So now we have not imported any project. So I have created one test data. I'm opening that Excel so that it would be visible to you. So in test data, what I have written, so if the drop-down value would be SHA1, this would be the output. If it would be MD5, this would be the output. MD2 will give this this output. MD4 will give this output, and so on. So you can have an n number of. This is my Excel data to create the test cases. I'll just close it. Let's. So let's import this data. So once I selected that Excel file, it gives me all the details what I have there in Excel. So this is the encoding type. This is the extractor type. So I have an option that let's select few only. So I have selected 3, 1, 2, 3, 4 part of it. Import. So now if you see, we are getting one message that it has been successfully imported and it has been imported in JSON format. If you see over here in test data, we do have this one in a JSON format, what we have imported from the Excel part of it. So data has been imported. Now we will change the, we will create this. So this will remain as it is, UI path. So let's save this one as Control K, output variable. What is the column name? Sorry. Encoding type. Let me dynamically edit this. I think data has been not done. Let me again import the data. Sorry, studios. Let's add the new one. Yes. Also, yes. This we will save in the output folder. So now we have, so it's already imported the arguments. UI path, we have hard coded it because this is the same thing what we need to pass it. This is dynamically, it will take from the data, what we have uploaded it, and the output, it will store in this output variable. Now, then where we need to verify our result is. So one thing what it's important one is before adding the test cases, you have to add this test testing.activity into it to enable the activities for it. So let me go through the activities. So we have 3 activities to verify the test result: verify control attribute, verify expression, verify with expression with operator. So verify expression with operator mean it will verify it whether this with operator whether is equal to or this. You will get all the operators into it. When you are going with verify expression, it will only compare that expression to expression. So verify control attribute will give you the output as a true or false Boolean output to verify that control is there. So let's verify it. So output, we have stored this variable. If you see the output from this website, it will store in the output variable. I am taking over here. Okay, let me change the variable. Test case 3. Just 1 minute. So this output should equal to this output, then only test case will be passed. So I will take this as variable to match it with that one. So if output and extractor are equal, then this test case would be marked as a pass. Any doubt? Anything? Let's save it. So once you save the test case,
one question. So when we import the data, whatever is the column name, those variables would be created.
Yes. So you have an option. If you see that when we are importing it, it gives you the option to import it with the headers or not.
Okay.
So it store over here in the JSON format over here. If you see test data, it store it, it convert that the data into the JSON format with that header and the header variables.
Okay. Okay.
So once you once you created this test case, you will get 2 new options when you are run the file with data variation, debug the file with data variation. So let's click on run. So run will give you this data, what we have imported, encoding type and extractor, whether I need to run it with entire use cases, entire this data. So let me run with only 2 as of now. I have selected only 2 to just give you the overview how it is running. So let's see the output. So if you see over here, the output validation has been passed. So let's see the output in this test explorer also. Sorry, it is still running. My mistake. One, it is done. Second one, it is running. Yes, now it is done. So if you see in the output, so we have selected 2 data sets. One is this one. It is saying verification is passed. Over here, it's also saying the validation is passed. Now, if we go to the text explorer, it will show that these are the 2 which we have executed. These are the 4 pending which we have not executed it. So these were the earlier one. What are the pending one, test case 1, what we have created it. So this give you the summary also over here, how much we have run it, how much passed we have, how much failed we have. Over here, if you are seeing, we are getting 100%. 100% means this verified 100% workflow. If you see green, green means it verified all the sequences into this one. So for example, if we have a flow chart type of thing where we have a conditions if and else, if it is not in green mean, it will give you the percentage over here that this test has been, this all test has been ran on 50% of workflow or 60% or 70%. Any doubt, any question? Okay. So now if you see, this is which user test case 3. This is not required. So we can delete this. So we have created the test case 3 where we have ran it, we have checked it. It is running fine for the 2 cases. Now, the second part of it, let's publish it to the orchestrator. So we have already created over here test case 3. Now, when we are going for the publish, it is saying the project has no publishable test cases. Now, what you need to do it, you need to right click on it. There is one option, set as publishable. Once you set it, it colors changes into the green. Now, if you publish it, yes, it will able to do that. Oh. Building the package, it has will be published to the orchestrator. So let's log in the orchestrator to see how we can run it, how we can do the things. log in with the default ID where it has been published. So if you see in the packages, we have published a minute ago. If you see this one, it has been published a minute ago, testing test or test manager workflow underscore test. So this we have recently tested, uploaded it to the workflow. Now let's go to the folder where it can run. So you will get the testing. So if you go into the test case, it automatically creates the test case with that particular project. Now first thing, you have an option to run it. Let's execute it from here. Now it goes into the queue. One by one, it will run and give you the output over here, whether it is successful or not. You have an option into the orchestrator also to schedule it like you are scheduling the jobs and all. We will show that one as well. Let it execute. First run is completed. It will show the status. If you see, it shows you the status over here as a pass. You can able to cancel it if you want to. Let's cancel this one. Same thing, it will run for the all. Okay, it is running for the second one. Once it is done, we will cancel pending one. Let it finish this one. So first it goes into the data case in the data set, data cases as the blank one without any result to it. Once it executed, it will save as the passed fail as a result in white, in green and red. Second one is also being completed. Let's cancel it now. So we have canceled all. This is running. Okay, cancel. Yeah. So we have executed only 2 sets over here. So now let's create the data set in which we will add data cases. Data sets. So this will give you the coverage as I shown you into the studio also, whether it completed 100% of workflow or it completed 50, 60 something. So once you make it enable, it will give you the percentage also, how much that covers that workflow. This test case covers how much workflows into it. So let me create this one. Let's select the data case. So data set has been created. So you can add multiple test cases into one data set. So you can add it, delete, you can clone it if you want, and you can even run it, execute it from here also. Now you can schedule it. You can just add the schedule, test schedule. And the same data set what you have created, you can add it over here. Any doubt, any question, anything from anyone? Okay, so let's move into the test manager part of it. How we can link it with the test manager. So this is the test manager login for first page. So in which I have already created 3 projects. Let's create one new project. So this is the dashboard page of that particular project. Just 1 minute. So I have all the projects over here. Let me show you already executed one first. So if you see, this will give you the dashboard. This much, so test case has been run and passed. This in this day, 12 has been passed. This has not been executed. There is no result out of it. Today also, there is no fail, no pass. It's still pending in the pending stage. So let's move into our community demo. Yes. So first tab is the requirement. So requirement. So how you can plan your test cases is the starting point of it. So requirement you can directly, if you click over project settings, you have an option to link it with the Azure, Jira, or all the ALM modules. So it directly comes from that over here. If you create the any workplace over there, any story, any user story or anything over here, it automatically comes over here as a requirement. On that requirement, you can create the test cases and test site, and you can automate it with the your studio. Let me create one test requirement. Now create one test case. Test case. So this shows you the initial version 1.0.0. Description is optional. Label also is an optional one if you want to add labels so that it would be easy for you to search it. So let's create this one and data set. Yes, important part. So here we have an option. So if you remember, you asked the data basis, why the orchestrator created the new database. So here we have an option. Let me create one data set first. I think it has not been created. Oh, what it? Actually, it is 8 o'clock. That machine got restarted, I guess. Just give me a minute.
Yep, guys. So the Azure machine was shut down.
Right.
That's why
right,
it is
at 8
throwing an
o'clock.
error. We will just start it across.
So one question I have.
Mhm.
So when we are creating the test cases from the studio, we have given the data at that time itself. So can we
Yes.
change the data from the test manager or the orchestrator, or it would
So-
run on the same data?
No, so you can update it. You can update the data and you can republish it.
Okay, so we need to do it via studio only.
Right, right.
Okay.
So I will show you how to link directly test manager with the studio also. Give me a minute because I'm about to share that one. It got restarted. It would take a minute, please. Any other question meanwhile? Okay, so we have
Guys, we have a quiz. I think we can start off with the quiz. Meanwhile, Jagdeep is
right,
starting off. You can go ahead and scan the barcodes across.
Share your screen.
So I will start the
Pawan.
quiz once.
Stop sharing it.
Guys, you can use this link to join the quiz across, or you can go ahead and scan this barcode to enter the quiz. Let me know once you are able to join it across. Yeah, I see people joining in. We have two. Guys, please do scan the barcode here on the screen to enter the quiz. I have pasted the link as well in the chat window. I see 9 people have joined the quiz. Guys, the barcode is on the screen. Please feel free to scan it from your mobile devices. And we have pasted the chat link as well in the chat. If you are joined in from the desktop machines or laptops, you can use that particular link to directly join the quiz. I see 12 people joined in. Guys, winner of this quiz will get certain goodies around, and I do see more people joining in. So we will allow like few seconds more to join the quiz. I'm gonna start the quiz, it seems. So go ahead, guys. There you go. Okay, so we have 20% stating as an automation suite and 79% stating as in all of above. So we go to the right answer. It's all of above. A test suite could be deployed in SaaS as well. PaaS, we have sold the PaaS, SaaS as well, and it is part of automation suite as well. So all the deployment strategies are eligible to deploy the test suite and test managers across. So if we see,
When we are
okay.
still seeing your QR code, so you want
Okay.
to pick the screen.
No, that should be okay. This is not needed. So I will move to the next question across.
Pawan, you may click on the present icon on Slido. Maybe then the rest of the participants can see it.
Okay. Okay, so we do have 7% stating as an test manager and 93% stating as an all of above. So let's see what is the right answer. We'll go. So all of above. So we have orchestrator as a component as well, where we deploy our test automations, test manager, a studio where we are creating it, and test manager we link the test cases and data sets across. So all the components do belong to the test suite. I get update. So how to link the test sets with the test manager? Okay, 77% says like both, you can do it from the studio and the orchestrator, or they are saying as we can directly publish it to the test manager. Let's see what's the right one. So it can be done both by studio and the orchestrator. So publishing only happens to the orchestrator. It's not the test manager where you can go ahead and publish it across. That's why we need the other databases around that we discussed around the architecture. So what is the default port for the test suite web portal that comes up with the installer? Rightly said, port 443 is the default port. If you see the right answer, it's 443, which comes like by default, which is in default SSL port. In case that has been used, I see couple like few 21% answered for an 8443. For our installation, since our machine was using the default port 443, we customized this particular port on 8443. Okay, Priyant. So we can generate installation token to access API that enables registering the UiPath on-premise products, right? Okay, 47% is saying from the orchestrated default tenant, test manager default tenant, and the organization admin. So from the identity host tenant, you need to go to the identity and then the management portal. There you can go ahead and generate the installation token. You see again, Prant has stopped this time. Next question. So which verification activity is not available in UiPath? Verifies expression with result, verify control attribute, or verify expression with an operator. I will wait for a few seconds. So let's check out the right answer. 60% of us were able to answer it correctly. It's verify expression with the result, verify control attribute, and verify with operator are not. Okay, again, Priyant, good one. So Priyant tops and Digendra and Chetan on the third number, while Digendra is on the second. Thank you, guys. I think Jagdeep is going to continue further.
Yes, that started. Machine server started.
Just one point here. I think the winner should share that email on the chat so that we can get back.
Yeah.
Pawan, do you have that list?
Prashant?
Do you?
Yeah, I'm sharing that. Thank you.
Yeah, Prashant, if you can share it across.
Yep.
Thank you, Priyant.
So let's come to the point. So we have already created the requirement COM1, this test case and test set over here. So now we have an option over here. If we can able to link it. So we have already created the data set in Orchestrator. We can able to link the same thing with that database, that data set also. Now, if we go to the studio part of it, we have one option as a test manager. Let's sign in. So it is already being signed in. So we have created the this URL. So we have given the URL over here. It is connected with this test manager. Now we will push this into the this link file with the test manager. So if it goes to that particular test case, we have an option, link this file to the test manager. So now we have created demo community, it's automatically showing over here. Test case and requirement would be test requirement. Test requirement. So we have two options. We can link it with existing orchestrator, and we have an option to link it with the directly from the studio itself. I think it is not linked. Super. Yes, it is. Yeah. So we are assigning this test case to the requirement already what we have created it. And we are assigning this to test case. Test case. Now, if you see, we can able to execute it, like click on automatic. So here what we did, so we have directly linked test orchestrator, test manager with the studio and publish our test case over here. If you see, we do have all the test cases here. It is still not executed, it will execute it. So first one is done. It will update the status in this dashboard. Once all the test cases are done, it will update the result over here, which is currently showing as none. If you see, 3 tests are already being done, and it is updating the status as none, pass, or fail. Let's go to another point over here. So here we have an option of the project setting where you can manage the user access. And importantly, we have an integration connection to establish it. Once you click on the DevOps Azure, it will ask you the name, service server URL. From that one, you can create the personal token, and you can create the bugs from here only. It is running. So this is the integration provided in this. Once it has been integrated, you can easily sync it with all the requirement. You can create the bugs if whenever the test gets failed and all that one. So this is all about the usage of test manager with orchestrator and the test cases. Any question, anything from anyone?
So I will take that as a no. I believe that concludes our session for today.
So,
Please do feel free to join the next session as well that we are having and register on the invite that has been shared. Thank you guys. Have a great day.
Thank you very much, all of you. Thank you. Have a good night. Goodbye. Bye-bye.
Thanks.